Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the final part of the three-part series of the Blue Lincoln Lowrider project. Hopefully you've watched episode 1 and episode 2. This is the conclusion to those two videos. As you've probably seen, the car was in not a state of disrepair, but it was in a pretty bad way, just neglected, not a lot of maintenance, not very well looked after by the previous owners, and fortunately the car fell into the hands of a guy who wanted it restoring. Well, at least he wanted the hydraulics restoring so he could use the car, he could drive it. He's up in Scotland, and he contacted us and said, would it be something that you can help me out with? And of course that is exactly the sort of stuff we like to do, getting old UK cars and restoring them and putting them back on the road, at least UK lowriders anyway. So if you know of any other UK lowriders out there that need the treatment, don't be afraid to get in contact. Just want to put out a little thanks to everybody who watched videos 1 and 2 and everything else that we do. It means an awful lot to me to think that anybody's watching these videos, and those who are liking, subscribing and commenting even more so. Keep it up. It makes me want to keep on making videos, so I'm buzzing for it. Anyway, to the car. Unfortunately, and this is apologies to those who might be getting into this series, this is the last episode because we didn't really film any of the restoration works. We took some photos and there's some clip videos which we'll put over me talking so you can see exactly what some of the work was that we undertook to get the car right. But it was more a case of just get stuck in. Filming a project adds so much time to it. In fact, I think it would probably take 3 times as long to film everything and tell you about what's going on, and that was more a case of get the work done, get the car back to the owner so we can enjoy it. So anyway, on to the problems that we found. And one of the biggest problems that we came across, and you'll probably recall from episode 1, was that the rear axle was sitting at a strange angle. You could see one of the cylinders was sat leaning, was it forward or backward forward, as I think it was, and the axle wasn't aligned right. It must have driven horrible. And when we came to stripping everything out, we found that one of the upper trailing arms, which had been replaced with adjustable trailing arms, which is brilliant, had snapped. The bush sleeve on that one side had snapped, and instead of it being circular, it was like a big U shape. So we took that off. We sent it off to Pat at Libby Fabrications, who rebuilt them with much more heavy duty sleeves, which we then fitted to the car, and that overcame that issue. There was also issues with the chain bridge in that the chains were too thin. They would have snapped every time you tried to pull a 3-wheel, especially with the weight of that car and the forces that those hydraulics would have been putting on the car. So we replaced the chains with some uprated bolt anchor chain and some high tensile strength bolts and some replacement nuts and washers. So hopefully that's overcome that issue. We'll see at the end of the video if it can still 3-wheel. That wasn't the only issue that we found, however. We also found that at least 1, maybe 2 of the tyres had a big nasty bulge in the sidewall, and the tyres were probably the wrong side and would have fouled on the arches at full drop. So we convinced the owner to change them out for some 155/80/13s, which we fitted, and not only did it obviously make it safer, but in our opinion it just looked better with the right size tyres on it. We also found that the adapters, so when we took the wheels off to sort the tyres out, we found that the adapters were loose. So some of the nuts that hold the adapters on were loose. Obviously that's a quick fix, we managed to fix that. We spotted, when we took the front suspension apart, the upper ball joints needed replacing, which we replaced. The cups that were fitted were shallow, so we replaced the shallow cups with deep cups. We replaced the front cylinders or rebuilt them. I think we rebuilt them and refitted them to the car. We replaced the rear cylinders. Now you would have seen in the previous video, episode 2, that the cylinders, which I think were 14s, were fouling on the parcel shelf that was smashing around in like where the speakers would have originally mounted and making a real mess of it. So we took those out and we replaced them with 12-inch cylinders to overcome that issue. When we stripped all the pumps and the hydraulics out of the trunk, we noticed that a lot of the fittings were loose. It was running 2 dumps to the front, which it didn't need, so when we rebuilt it with a single dump and fitted a nice trick hop hose Y block. And then once we'd fixed and serviced everything that was on the car, we set about building a new install. So all new steel went in, new battery trays were made, a whole new rack. The rack was painted, all the boot, the inside of the trunk was painted with trunk bed paint, so it's got a little bit of hard wearing. Once we'd rebuilt and refurbed the pumps, we fitted them. We fitted 6 new batteries. I supplied 5 and fitted 6 because the owner had already supplied 1 battery. We also checked over all of the steering and suspension parts to make sure everything was tight, nothing was loose, all trailing arm mounts, all axle mounts, all A-arm mounts, everything was tight. We replaced all of the battery cable, all of the battery terminals, all of the crimp or lug terminals, the earth disconnect, everything was replaced with brand new 50mm cable and 8mm terminals. We fitted new solenoids with some new solenoid links, rewired all the solenoids and all the dumps. Everything was replaced, everything was repaired, everything was fitted back into the car. We also went a step further, and once everything was stripped off, we cleaned all the chassis rails, we cleaned all the upper inner arches, we cleaned all the suspension components and axle, and either painted the frame rails or stone chip painted up in the arches and around all the suspension points to make sure that there was a little bit more longevity to prevent from rust and any other damage, and to make it look better, to be honest, make it look a bit prettier. To finalise with all that work, everything fitted to the car, we started testing the car at 72 volt, which is what the car was originally built for. It was built to hop, built to 3-wheel, so staying true to that, we ran the front at 72, I think we ran the rear at 24. We started testing it to make sure that it had hop. We started testing it to make sure it had 3-wheel, and it was just about 3-wheel. It's a tight 3-wheel. There's a lot of weight in that engine. I'm not sure about where the chain mounts were or what, but it took some effort to get it to 3-wheel, but it will go. And it hops really nice considering everything that car's been through. It's got decent hopping coils that are already broken in. It's obviously got nice coils and new tyres, etc. So there's no reason why that car couldn't hop. But of course, with these things, there's still a lot of work to do for the current owner. I'm not sure what his plans are, but he obviously needs to do some general maintenance to the running gear, because the engine doesn't start too well, but it runs okay once it gets going, so maybe it just needs a service. Some electrical issues want fixing, and then the cosmetics, whether he's going to stick with the wrap, whether he's going to get the wheels powder coated or painted, or whether he's going to get the car painted or have a new wrap. And then of course, to finalise that godforsaken interior that looks like somebody has been living in there, and it's just disgusting. And you can see from these pictures, I think I've got a picture of the seats and the carpet, which were just awful. How you could let any car get into that condition, never mind you pride and joy Lowrider, but these things happen. So anyway, that sums up the work that we put in and everything that we did with the car. It is now back up in Scotland with the owner. He's using it, he's enjoying it, he's going to be hopefully keeping us updated with the work that he does to it to keep it rolling, and we're moving on to the next. So thank you for following this minimal 3-part series, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye and stuff.